Hey guys, it's coming in my review for The Mitchells versus the Machines. So what The Mitchells versus the Machines is essentially about is basically we center on the character of Katie Mitchell, and she's at a point in her life where she's about to go off to college, to this film school, but she also is in a family that is pretty dysfunctional. They have not really connected in quite a bit. There's a line in the movie, I believe, where they say that they haven't even been able to take a decent picture together because they're just constantly not on the same level. And so when her parents are, or specifically her father, is told that she's going off to college, he makes it his mission to be the one to drive her there. So they go on this road trip of sorts, but this is very quickly upended when it turns out that in this new AI device called PAL, it's come out and, you know, it's meant to be the next big, like, technological advancement, but it very quickly starts to turn on the humans, and basically all of technology starts to quickly take away humans one by one, eventually leading to a robo-apocalypse of sorts, and the only humans left turn out to be the Mitchells. So now it is up to them to do what they can to stop these robots once and for all and restore the world back to the way it's supposed to be, but hopefully also take the time to reconnect as a family. So The Mitchells vs. the Machines, I was very excited for this film. I've been looking forward to this film for a long time now. Back when it was called Connected last year, when that trailer first came out, I was very much looking forward to it, mainly just because of who was involved, but also it just seemed like one of those animated films that was really going to be, you know, really going to be something that I could get behind, really be something very special. Of course, we've had to wait forever to the point where it's not even coming to theaters anymore. It's now exclusively a Netflix-only release, which is fine. I'm happy the film was able to come out in some capacity, even though I really do wish I could have seen it in theaters, but it's fine. I'm just happy the film was able to come out in some way, but it has finally come out. I thankfully was actually able to see this film a little bit earlier than most. I saw it at a online screening that Netflix was doing like a week before the movie came out. For some reason, I've not gotten a chance to review the movie until now, but I'm very happy that I did see it because this is easily one of the best films that I've seen in quite some time. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is yet another very creative film from Phil Lord and Chris Miller. It's very funny at points, but it also is a very heartwarming look at family, much more than you really are expecting, and not even close to the banning technology film that a lot of people thought it was going to be. I think it's a film that's going to touch a lot of people for sure, but we're just getting to right now, starting off with the voice cast. And with a film like this, I mean, you need a really great voice cast to really do deliver, and I had a feeling that this voice cast was really going to be something special. As usual, when it comes to films that Lord and Miller are behind, the voice cast is usually really great, and thankfully that is very much the case here. This is one of the most consistent and entertaining voice casts that I've seen in quite a bit. Let's first talk about Abbi Jacobson, though, who plays the character of Katie Mitchell, and she is fantastic here. She does a really great job of leaning into the awkwardness and eccentricities of Katie as a character, but also really leaning into her relatability. I think there's a lot of people that are going to find themselves connecting to Katie because they've been in similar situations to her, or they've gone through similar places with her, and where she ends up going as a character, it really does work. There's a very big shift that she ends up taking, and Jacobson really does a great job with that. She's very likable, but she also, I think, is really going to tug at your heartstrings, and I really like what she ended up doing in this role. It's easily one of the best animated performances that I think I've seen all year. But Danny McBride is also really good here. I know a lot of people were fearful that this role wasn't going to work, and it absolutely works. He does a great job at playing this dad that really is just doing whatever he can to try to connect with his daughter, even if he is clearly very out of touch with technology and just a lot of things going on in the world, and that makes for a really fun dynamic, but it's also a very emotional performance. There's a lot more layers given to him than I think you're really expecting, and I think he overall did a really great job with that. Maya Rudolph is also really great here, as well as Mike Rianda. The family overall just has really great chemistry, and I think they all work very well together. But the supporting cast as well absolutely is one of the things that makes this movie. I mean, Eric Andre is so funny here. He plays the guy that was originally supposed to manufacture PAL, and just his whole character is so funny. The way that he's essentially being held hostage by Pal is so much fun to watch, and Andre really does a great job with that. But Olivia Colman, oh my god, I was not expecting her to work as well as she really did in this movie. I know Olivia Colman's a great actress, but I didn't really see this being a role that she'd ever play, but she absolutely kills it here. I mean, not only is Pal legitimately terrifying, like, you look at this device and you're really creeped out by it and the things that it's doing, but Colman really goes all in just showing how far this phone is willing to go, what it's willing to do. There's so many scenes with her that are so much fun to watch, and I think she just did such a great job. You can tell how much fun she was really having in this role, and again, it really does show the range in Colman that she was able to make a role like this pull off, but she really does it, and I really enjoyed what she ended up doing here for sure. I thought she was a lot of fun. Fred Armisen and Beck Bennett are also really funny as these two like malfunctioned robots that kind of help out the family. I thought they were a lot of fun here. Really, the entire cast. I mean, even some of the smaller roles like John Legend and Chrissy Teigen are here. They don't have a lot to do, but when they're here, they're a lot of fun as well. This entire cast really does deliver. They all make an impression in some way, and I think just in general, this is one of the most talented and most committed ensembles to any animated film that I've seen in quite some time, and definitely one of the best parts of this movie. But now we have to get into the things that really do work with this movie, and that's the directing and the writing, which is easily some of the best I've seen in any film in quite a bit. I mean, Mike Rianda's directing. Now, this film is not directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Contrary to popular belief, they really only produced this film, but it certainly has that Phil Lord and Chris Miller tinge to it, where it's a film that is very wacky, it is very silly, but it also is very insightful and heartwarming, and Rianda clearly is no stranger to that kind of storytelling. Now, I have not seen Gravity Falls. I've seen, I think one episode of that show, but I have not seen it in the way that others have. So I'm not too familiar with his style, but I definitely think after watching this movie, I'd be a big fan of that film because I really did love his style throughout this entire movie. I think what he does a really good job with, for me at least, is his awareness of just how ridiculous a lot of this film is. Because, yeah, the film definitely isn't afraid to get really silly. It isn't afraid to have some really great gags, and it really does deliver in terms of comedy. It really does deliver on that front. I mean, there were so many moments in this movie where I was laughing hysterically. The hardest I've laughed at a film in quite a bit, to be honest. I really loved a lot of the comedy throughout this film, but he also has this awareness that this film is very relatable. There were many moments in this movie where I was laughing hysterically, and then all of a sudden I started to feel kind of sad for the characters, and that blending is just pitch perfect in that way. The way that he's able to seamlessly have this outrageous comedy and then blend it with this sense of heart and this very this authenticity that this film has. It's really hard to try to blur that line, and he does an excellent job with that, and I really enjoyed his directing throughout this film. From what I understand, this film is actually based on a true story. Now, obviously, the robot apocalypse part is probably not. That's probably not something that actually happened, but the Mitchells are a real family, and so you can really see the passion throughout this entire film. This feels like something that Rianda has been wanting to tell this. He's been wanting to tell this story for a while now, and he does a really good job with that. So I really enjoyed the directing throughout this entire film. It was easily one of the best parts of this movie. But let's get into the writing here, because the writing in this film is just phenomenal. I mean, what they're able to do writing-wise in this film really did impress me, because look, going into this film, I already knew what to expect. I knew this film was probably going to be really funny, but I did not expect it to be nearly as funny as it was. And we'll talk about the comedy in a little bit, but what really impressed me about this movie, I would say, is how well written all of these characters are. I mean, every single one of these characters feels so well fleshed out. In terms of the Mitchells family, that is, every single one of them feels so well fleshed out. They all have some sort of desire or motivation, especially our lead character, Katie, who, for me, is one of the most relatable characters I've seen in a film in quite a bit. I mean, she's someone that has a YouTube channel. She regularly uploads these really low budget and just silly short films onto her channel, and people really love them. They got a really big fan base behind it, and she has serious dreams of becoming a filmmaker, but she doesn't really want to pursue it in the way that others have. She wants to go to film school, not just because she wants to be a filmmaker, but also because she wants to find her people. She wants to, find a way. She wants to finally blend in with her crowd. She hasn't really felt like she's found it yet. And so I thought that part of the film was really great. But the other part I really loved is her relationship with her father, because while this movie definitely does have a message about family, it's not just a generic message about, oh, family's very important and things like that. Yes, we've seen a lot of films talk about that, but it's much more than just the importance of family. It's much more about how when we get older, we start to, sort of divide ourselves from our parents. We look at them as if we don't really connect with them in that way. I felt this myself. There have been many moments where I've talked to my parents and I felt like something's just not really clicking. It's not so much that, we don't get along. It's the fact that we're just not connecting in the way that they should. And that's very much Katie and her father. They don't have a horrible relationship. It's just not what it used to be. These are two that used to have this amazing bond, Katie and Rick. They used to be very close, but they've since gone in very different directions. And Rick's at a point where he doesn't want to lose Katie, whereas Katie is trying to get away from Rick because he feels like she feels like he's holding her back. He's constantly telling her that she needs to be careful with what she's pursuing. He's constantly telling her that, this is something that, she shouldn't be involved in, that this isn't a very serious career. And so you can see how it's really getting to her. But in reality, Rick is really just a character that cares a lot for his daughter, and getting to see that relationship play out, I thought was so well done. The film takes actually a considerable amount of time to really flesh out their bond, and I was not expecting that, but the first 20 minutes of this movie, it actually takes a while for the plot to kick in. The first 20 minutes is really just us seeing Katie, her presenting, this film to her family not being as appreciative of it, and then you have the character of Rick, who, again, he is trying to do the right thing. He is trying to be a good father. He just doesn't really know how to approach it. He doesn't know what to do these days because he has fallen out of touch with her. And so you really do see at first that it seems like these two are very different. But as the film goes on, you start to see there's a lot more similarities than you really are expecting, but it doesn't reveal it in the way that you're expecting, where it's like they're holding back a lot of their feelings toward each other and then they eventually just release it. No, this film goes about it in a much different way that I was honestly really impressed by. There's a revelation that comes up involving Rick, and it wasn't just that there was this plot reveal happened. I thought it was a really good reveal, but it was also the way they decided to reveal it I thought was really impressive, and I thought it really worked for Katie as a character, and as a result, it just makes you care that much more about their bond. It makes you love those two that much more. And so I think they just did a really good job at fleshing out that relationship, and it's easily one of my favorite parts of the movie. And you also understand why this robo-apocalypse is really a way to bond them together and find a way to get them to understand each other again and sort of reconnect in that way. This film was once called Connected, and I can kind of see why, because obviously, yes, there's the connection of technology, but it's also about getting reconnected to your family, getting reacquainted, finding that bond again, finding that common ground, and that's kind of where Katie is as a character, and I really did like getting to see that. But the other members of the Mitchell family are also really well fleshed out here, especially when it comes to the character of, especially when it comes to Linda Mitchell. I mean, the arc that they have with her is really well done. She constantly sees her family as in not the idealistic way that she wants them to be. She's constantly looking at these neighbors that they have, the Posies, because they are the idealistic family. They're very well dressed. They look perfect. They don't really seem to have a lot of issues. They're not nearly as out there as their family is. And so she's constantly looking back at them, hoping that they could be her family and wishing that she was as good, and also not thinking that she's worthy of becoming friends with them. It's not so much that she idolizes them, she just wants to become friends with them, and that really does work as her goal throughout this movie. You understand where her character is as well, because I'm sure there have been points where, like, you've looked at your family and you've compared them to other families that you've seen. You're like, why can't you be more like this family? And I think that's a really good arc for Linda, and it really does work. Her fascination with the Posey family it's really fun to watch at first, but then you understand more of why she's really doing it, and it made her character that much more authentic. It made her that much more likable, and I thought they did some really good stuff with her. And then there's Aaron Mitchell, and his entire arc is that he just wants to play with dinosaurs. That's his entire thing. He's always played with Katie. They have a really close relationship as siblings, and now she's going off to college, and so he has to find someone else to play with, and it works really well. There's not a lot given to him, but it really does work for him as a character. And so again, these characters themselves are so likable in that way. So when they're put into this situation, you care that much more. You understand why this is the family that's been chosen, because they all are dealing with their own things. This is kind of their way of coming together as a family and sort of just remembering how to connect as a family again, because they haven't really in a while. And so I really like getting to see that. It's a lot more than just a generic road trip movie for sure. So I definitely really did appreciate that. But again, in terms of comedy, this film absolutely delivers on that front as well. I mean, there are so many moments that just had me gut busting with laughter, honestly. There's this amazing recurring gag, especially with Rick's character and how little he understands technology, and you'd think that it would start to get old, where it's like, oh, he's just an adult, he doesn't know what he's doing. But no, they do something different with it every single time, and so it really does work. Even at the end, you think that maybe he finally has a handle on it, and just what they decide to do, it just works so well. And every single time they cut to it, I found myself laughing. The best scene in the movie, you've seen the trailer, it involves Furbies, and you have not seen the half of it in terms of what they do with the Furbies. It just really does work. In terms of all that, they do a really great job with that. And obviously, yes, there's a lot of jokes involving technology, and you're probably worried that that is going to get very tiring, but every single one of them I felt like had a purpose. They're not just there to reference a YouTube video. They're not just there to reference, something else that's going on, some other current event within the world. They're all there for a purpose. There's this one recurring gag they keep doing whenever a certain thing happens. There is a certain thing that Katie brings up. There's a certain action that happens, and I thought that worked really well. Even Olivia Colman's character as this villain, I did not really think that this was going to work, having a phone be the villain, but she really does. And I thought overall she was just such a fun character to watch. And there's so many moments where, like, you think they're going to go for the predictable joke, and they don't. They go for something far different. And so just in terms of humor, this film absolutely delivered for me. I think they did a really great job with that. And let's talk about the technology aspect, because the message of this film is very much not just technology brings us together. That's more of a surface level. I'd say it's more about how some of us don't understand technology in the ways that others do. And by listening to, the ones that do understand it more and listening to the ones that do use it more within their lives, it helps bring us together. I think that's a big part of what they're really trying to get at with the technology here. They do a really good job with that overall. So I definitely really did enjoy what they ended up doing. It made sense why there's this crazy plot line. There are these two characters as well that are these robots, but they're like defunctioning. They're like damaged. And so they're not at the command of PAL. They instead are kind of going rogue. They're played by Fred Armisen and Beck Bennett, and they are so much fun to watch. What they end up doing, and especially the bond they form with the family. I really thought it was going to get annoying after a while, but it never really did. I found myself loving every second of what they did with them, and they were just so delightful and fun to watch. So again, just writing-wise, this film absolutely delivers. There's so many moments that I loved in terms of the writing here. And the other thing that really impressed me about this film is that there are tons of moments in this movie where you think it's going to go in a really predictable direction, especially towards the end. You think there's a certain something that's going to happen, and then it doesn't. It actually goes somewhere completely different. And it wasn't just that, oh, it subverted my expectations. It was the fact that it really did work for this story. It kept it that much more fresh, and it also added into the comedy. I really enjoyed what they ended up doing there, and they were able to pull it off very well, and I think further added into the message of this movie. So I really did enjoy the way they end up handling this. Again, like I said, a lot of this film is very outrageous, but there's a certain authenticity to it, and I think the lack of predictableness is a big reason for that. The lack of predictable moments that we're expecting this film to go into, it doesn't. I think that's one of the reasons this film works as well as it does. In terms of animation, I mean, I'm pretty much going to reiterate things I've said about a lot of animated movies lately, but it has to be said, the animation in this film is just next level in terms of what they do here. I mean, not just the look of the Mitchells themselves, but where they end up going with the technology. There are so many just gorgeous scenes to watch. This is a film that is constantly delivering in terms of animation, and I think is one of those things where you can't really look away just because of how beautiful everything really looks here. I mean, it just, everything pops, everything dazzles. The look of the robots especially is just a really special one, and there are just so many moments that work in form of animation, and Sony just continues to deliver, I think, in terms of their animation. They're really creative, and it's really no different here. They've done such a great job with the animation. There's even some stuff they do where they'll cut to suddenly more a different style of animation when it's we're cutting to the films that Katie has made, and it works really well in contrast to the animation that we get throughout the rest of the film. So again, just amazing animation overall. In fact, it's animation that's so stunning that it really bums me out that this wasn't able to go to theaters. I know obviously with COVID and everything it wasn't able to, but I seriously don't understand how this doesn't get to go to theaters, but something like, say, fucking Spirit, whatever that is, that movie that's coming out to DreamWorks, somehow is. I don't really understand it all, because this is a film that was meant to be seen in the theater, and I feel like, again, while this film is a lot of fun to watch, I feel like the experience would be that much more heightened if you were to go to the theater, because I feel like it definitely is very much made for that. Let's talk about the score in the movie, because the score here, it is, of course, from the same person that did the Lego Movie 2, Mark Mothersbaugh. We know that he's very talented, but his score to this film is probably one of my favorites he's done yet. I mean, I really loved his music throughout this entire movie, because yes, obviously the score is a lot of fun to listen to, but it has this like techno sort of feel to it. Whenever we cut to the robots or what Pal is doing, there's this sort of synthy score that plays, and it really fits this movie very well. I didn't know if it was going to at first, but it really did work, and I think it helps this movie stand out that much more. It's definitely one of those scores that I've found myself going back to since watching it. So I really enjoyed the score here a lot. I thought it was something that was really unique and different than a lot of animated films, and it just overall heightened my enjoyment for this one. So I really enjoyed the score in this film. The other thing I will say about the music, though, is the soundtrack is really good here. There's one song that's played throughout this movie, and it's a song that I've enjoyed before, but I have a deeper appreciation for it now, because it holds something that's very sentimental to two characters in the film. I don't want to get into it too much, but what they decided to do with it again made me enjoy this song more, and I was surprised by how well it really did work. I thought it was going to get annoying that they kept reusing this song over and over again, but understanding what it means to these characters, it just really worked in that way. So I really enjoyed the soundtrack in this movie a lot. And the editing, I think the editing to this film is pretty much perfect. I don't think this film is too long at all. I've seen some people say it drags on a bit, but I really did not have that issue very much at all. I think they they did a really good job in terms of the editing here. In terms of flaws with this movie, I really don't have all that many. There isn't a lot that really like drastically brings this film down. I mean, the only thing I will say is that I do think we could have dived a bit deeper into the characters of the Posies. Something happens to them very early on in the film, so we don't really get to see them a lot, and considering that they were a big part of that they were a very big part of Linda's arc, I think we maybe could have dived into them a bit more. But other than that, this film is pretty much what I wanted it to be. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is an endlessly creative film. It's absolutely hilarious, but it also has a sense of heart and relatability to it that I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy. It's got a stellar voice cast. It's got some dazzling animation. It's got a really great message to it. It just overall is everything you could really want in an animated film, and it's in general one of the best films that I've seen in quite a while. I'm so happy that we were able to finally see it. It very much did live up to the hype, and I am going to give the Mitchells vs. the Machines overall an A. Seriously, guys, do what you can to see this one. Do not miss out on this one. I know there are a lot of Netflix movies that comes out, and there's a lot of ones that, you know, you tend to just kind of skip over because you miss them, but this is one that you absolutely need to see because it is definitely worth your time for sure. But other than that, guys, to my review, The Mitchells vs. the Machines. Most guys saw this movie. I'd love your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.